Give me Revelation chapter, what is it, 9? And verse, let me see. Revelation chapter 9. Let's see, start there. Yeah. Now, when you read Revelation chapter 9, it goes into World War I and it goes into World War III. Okay? But read what you got. We're going to start at chapter 9, verse 11. All right, now this concerning World War I. Okay? John seen World War I taking place, man. John the Revelator on the island of Patmos. He's seen World War I taking place, man. Go ahead, bro.
All right, this is Revelation chapter 9, verse 11. And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon. Is that correct? Abaddon? Okay, Salakia. This is Revelation chapter 9, verse 11. And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon.
Yeah. Now, what that's going into is Kaiser Wilhelm II. When you go into the history, Kaiser Wilhelm II was part of World War I. All right. And what John seen is the Prussian, which is Germany, which is part of Germany. Okay. What John the Revelator seen was the Prussian army, and he seen Kaiser Wilhelm there. Okay? That's dealing with World War I. And that's Kaiser Wilhelm II is what they're talking about in Revelation 9 and 11. Okay? Go ahead, bro.
It says, but in the Greek tongue has his name Apollyon.
Yep.
Verse 12. One woe is past.
One woe is past. World War I is past. See that? World War I is past, man. And there was a lot of death in World War I. It was so much death that men were getting hit with military weaponry and they wanted to die, but they couldn't. Let me see. Jump up to verse 6.
All right, this is Revelation chapter 9, verse 6. And in those days shall men seek death.
See? In World War I, they were seeking death, man, because how they limbs and how their face got shot off. How they were losing limbs. But YAHAWASHI was preserving them to where they had to suffer that, with their limbs knocked off, with holes in their face, being shot off, man. You see? That's how YAHAWASHI gets you, man. He tortures you in this body, right? You see? And you go look at those pictures and what was going on in World War I, it was a lot of death, man. And this one right here, World War III, is going to be massive, man. It's going to be a major depopulation, man. Go ahead, bro.
All right, this is still Revelation chapter 9, verse 6. And in those days shall men seek death and shall not find it. And shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them.
And death shall flee from them, man. They're going to have to suffer, man. See? That's the characteristics of YAHAWASHI. But he's doing this because guess what? You touch the nation of Israel, which is precious unto you. So you nations got to suffer, man. You see? And you got mercenaries fleeing from Ukraine. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, how are you?
Hanging in
Are
there?
you usually out here on Saturdays?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, bro.
All right, this is Revelation chapter 9.
You
Jumping
know
back
why? You know why he said it. Why he said it?
You were out here that weekend?
Nah.
Saturday?
Nah. The reason why he said that is to avoid us. See? He's like, man, y'all like home. You know, because today's Sunday. But he said, y'all come on Saturday, don't you? So he was trying to avoid us.
Oh, okay.
But we out here today. But he was just trying to make sure.
Still.
That's that other right. Yeah. He was trying to, you know what I'm saying, make sure that he don't bump into us no more.
Right.
Every time you walk a fence.
Yeah. Go ahead. He could be a spy too on top of that, man. You know what I'm saying? Let his nation know that hey, they out there on Sundays now.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? This is what we do when we out here, man. These people are crazy, man. Go ahead, bro.
All right, this is jumping back to Revelation chapter 9, verse 12. It says, one woe is past, and behold, there come two woes more hereafter.
So, one war is past, World War I, okay? World War II passed. Now we're in the World War III. Now, if you continue on, that's going into 200 million missiles that's going to hit America concerning World War III, man, if you read on. But we ain't finna read on concerning that. But that's what I want to come out. World War III is upon us, man. Give me Joel, the 3rd chapter, man. Now, I was waiting on this. Now, what we finna look at right here, I knew about this. Let me see. What we finna look at right here, I knew about this, let's see. Man, that was Monday? Let me see. It had to be January. What's today's date? 30th?
29th.
Okay, 29th, right? I knew about this Monday, January 23rd. See, I knew about this then, but it was in subtitles. I was waiting on it to where, you know, you got people speaking, the translator. But sometimes it's in subtitles, you gotta read it. But I was waiting on it to come out to where people were speaking on it. You know what I'm saying? But I knew about it in January 23rd. But I wanted to come out to where people is speaking on it. Right? Now I'm gonna show you something. Show you something here. But
you touched on the topic of anti-Russian propaganda in the Western media. And
that's not what I want. But I'm gonna take y'all somewhere. Now, here we go. Now, read what you got, bro, in Joel, the 1st chapter. Joel, the 3rd chapter, in the 1st verse.
Joel chapter 3, verse 1. All right, this is Joel chapter 3, verse 1. For behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem.
So, what they're saying is, YAHAWASHI is going to restore us to where we're going to come back and serve him. So, it's happening. The dry bones is waking up, okay? So, YAHAWASHI is restoring us back to him by the word. And when it's complete, he's going to put us in the land, okay? But this is the beginning of it, as you see Israelites waking up, the dry bones waking up. So he's restoring us back to him, to what we're serving him now, okay? Go ahead.
This is verse 2. I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat.
Now, the valley of Jehoshaphat is in the Middle East, okay? Now you got this map, right? You got this map, right? And that area, this area right here in the Middle East, you got Syria, you got Jerusalem, you got Iraq, you got Saudi Arabia, you got all them, you got Israel, you got all them areas right there. Right there, that I'm running a circle around, that's a whole hotbed, man. That's a hotbed right there. So you got Ukraine, you got Russia, all that's gonna spread down into there, man. The valley of Jehoshaphat, man. All that's gonna spread down in there, man. Okay? Their area in the Middle East is a hotbed. Now, if you check the news, Israel just bombed Iran, some of Iran military facilities. Just bombed it, man. This morning, man. I woke up and seen it on the news this morning, man. Just bombed it. So you got them gutter rats still messing with Iran, which is supposed to happen like that, okay? Because all that is a setup to bring this World War III to a completion, to where all these nations gonna be fighting in the Middle East. So what's going on in Ukraine, like I said, it's gonna spread down into the Middle East, man. It's gonna spread everywhere, man. It's gonna spread to Babylon, man. It's gonna spread, man. But what you're seeing in Ukraine is the beginning of it. The Russians waking up, because they up now. And I'm gonna show you something concerning, to let you know they up. You know what I'm saying? They see what's going on, but I was waiting on it. You see? I was waiting on it, man.
United States and its satellites for the start of the global World Food Organization and other international structures.
Now, this is Sergei Lavrov, right? And
The so-called aggression against Ukraine.
this is Sergei Lavrov, and he is a Russian foreign minister, right? It's a Russian foreign minister, right? And I want y'all to hear something, man. Let's see if I can get it.
Economy. Well, the so-called aggression against Ukraine became the cause of all the trouble. The so-called aggression against Ukraine became the cause of all the troubles of the world economy. Well, I will not even dwell on the refutation of these allegations, because statistics, including statistics from the World Bank, statistics from the International Monetary Fund, the World Food Organization and other international structures, convincingly show that the crisis was brewing long before the start of a special military operation. President Putin has repeatedly cited data that characterize how negative phenomena in the world economy began, primarily as a result of the selfish position of the United States and its allies. Therefore, what is happening now in Ukraine is the result of many years of preparations by the United States and its satellites for the start of a global hybrid war against the Russian Federation. Nobody hides it. And if you read unbiased Western figures, including political scientists, politicians, you can easily be convinced of this. Just the other day there was an article by Columbia University professor Jan Bremer, where he wrote, a quote, "We are not in a cold war with Russia. We are in a hot war with Russia. NATO is fighting Russia through Ukraine." End of quote. This is a fairly frank confession. This conclusion lies on the surface. It is strange that they are trying to somehow refute it. Finally, Croatian President Milanovic recently said that this is a NATO war. Frankly, honestly, a few weeks ago, Henry Kissinger, before in his last article he called after all to accept Ukraine into NATO. He wrote very clearly in one of his articles a few weeks ago that what is happening in Ukraine is a clash, a rivalry between two nuclear powers for control over this territory. It's pretty clear what I'm talking about. Therefore, when our Western partners deny and foam at the mouth prove that they are not at war with Russia, that they are only helping Ukraine cope with aggression and restore its territorial integrity, they are disingenuous. The volume of support clearly indicates that the West has staked a lot on its war against Russia. This is understandable. Because the events around Ukraine revealed the latent desire of the United States to stop striving to strengthen its positions in the world by legitimate means, and to switch to illegitimate methods to ensure its dominance. They use everything, as you can see, and not because of what is happening in Ukraine. All the mechanisms that the West created, led by the United States, and which it considered sacred, have been destroyed. This is a free market. This is fair competition. This is free enterprise. This is the inviolability of property. This is the presumption of innocence. Everything on which the Western model of globalization was based collapsed overnight. Sanctions that contradict these postulates, and these mechanisms are applied against Russia and against other objectionable countries. It is clear that tomorrow or the day after tomorrow they can be used against any state that, in one way or another, will not recklessly carry out American orders. I think there is no need to talk about it for a long time. The European Union has completely submitted to the American dictate. And the apotheosis of this process, which has been maturing for several years, was the recent signing of the joint declaration of NATO and the European Union, which directly states that NATO and the EU have the task of using all political, economic and military means in the interests of the Golden Billion. It directly says so. In the interests of our 1 billion citizens from NATO and the European Union. All other people, according to Borrell, are jungles that prevent the blooming garden from developing. Therefore, these jungles must be reformatted, adjusted to their needs, turned into colonies of a new type, and ruthlessly pumped out resources from there by new methods. The means are known. These are demonization, blackmail, sanctions, threats of force, and much more. In particular, now the West's line of destroying the traditional ties of historical partners in different regions, fragmenting and destabilizing these regions, is more noticeable. We see it in the Balkans. We see it in the post-Soviet space, especially if we analyze the actions of the United States, the actions of their clients and their helpers, in Central Asia, in the Transcaucasus, and, of course, everything that is happening around Ukraine, which has been ripening around Ukraine for a very long time. In 2004 there was the first maiden. Then for the first time from the lips of European officials it sounded that Ukraine should choose with whom it is, with the West or with Russia. Since then, this either has consistently been promoted in Western policy towards this region. Those who made the wrong choice and believed that his or her historical ties, family ties, traditions and religious beliefs connected him with the Russian Federation, although he or she lives in Ukraine, more or less delicately at first, and in the end they ruthlessly grind them, excluded from political life, applied measures of criminal prosecution against them.
So, you see how the Russians is seeing how America and NATO is playing it against them. They studying all the stuff that America is doing, man. And they examining it, man. And they realize, look, we at war with NATO and America is the head of NATO. They realize that, man. And like I was telling y'all, according to proxy, man, it's gonna spread, man. The Russians up, man. They realize they're at war with America, man. Whether they try to hide it or whether they try not to, whether they hide it in the news or whether they don't put it in the newspaper, whatever they do, the Russians' mind is set that, look, we at war with America, man.
Right.
You see? It's set, man. And you can think what you want to think in America, and the people can think what they want to think in the western part of this world, but the mind state of the Russians is set. Look, we at war with NATO and America, man. That's it, man. That's it. We already in World War III, man. That's what I wanted to hear them Russians say, man. So them Russians is up, man. The bear's up. Go ahead, bro.